Purchase. Let's have a look at the map first. Um, I asked the player one to make sure that we're not using turn per what are they called? Points per turn victory X's. I'm not experienced enough to handle them. Um, you really need to be much more aggressive and be able to move faster in the battle. Otherwise, you get nowhere. And well, I mean, that didn't really matter. The previous battle was uh, at the end of battle type victory X's as these are. Um, but I still had to fight the crushing defeat, so it doesn't really matter. I sucked that much. So, but anyway, I mean, uh, I guess at some point maybe I'll get better. But I think I'm putting too much pressure on myself to try and improve. Just need to really enjoy the game more. So what are the actual starting victory X's? 40. Okay, so it's another one of those where you pretty much have to get victory X's if you want to get at least a draw. Yeah, because we're only starting with 40 point. Um, so there should be four of them here. So we're starting with 160 points. Yeah. This is the thing. So in order to get a draw, you're gonna have to take victory X's. There's no way to avoid it. Okay, it's a wide open map. That's gonna be fun for my infantry. Let's have a look over here. So I know I'm starting on the right-hand side of the map. I confirmed that in a test game I set up earlier today. Um, I found that's the only way to do it. I asked in the forums whether it was possible to. There's a way to know ahead of time. Got various answers, no definitive saying, yeah, this is how you figure it out. So I figured the only way to do it is to just set up a quick game. Don't bother buying anything. No, just to go through the process until you get to the point where you're deploying, and then you know which side of the map you're starting on. So we usually have the same, yeah, each side gets the same. So now we're. I should also check the visibility. Let's see. Make sure you set everything else. Visibility is 25, length is 15, and it disappears. Date is May 1940. Time zone 900, and Germany versus Belgium. I am Germany. What else? This is one of these things in the old game. You click this, and it just sits there, and so it doesn't give you enough time to read everything in it, right? Okay, so that looks like it's set up correctly. Let's go back to the map. So the center is somewhere. Let's find the center. 20. 20. Yeah, that's about the center of the map. So we'll be looking at 15. No, it's visibility 25. So maybe 12. So should be around about a year. Starting line is going to be around about a year. You can't actually see some things on when you're deploying. Like you can't tell where the starting line is. Can't tell what. Like you can't even tell what side of the map you're starting on. That's the biggest thing. Um, like you normally you'd see flags, retreat flags, and so on your side, but you don't even see that stuff. So it's really quite tricky. There's a lot of weird stuff, and I think it's probably why I'm struggling in it because it's not just learning tactics; it's learning the weird behavior of the game. Um, almost there. I mean, everybody who plays play by email in Steel Panthers World at War has been playing it for like probably 15 years. I just started a few months ago, so I really should not expect be able to keep up with them. So it's around 6th round year. We're out in the open. Yeah, Well, this might be useful for starting behind. Um, we only have 1,000 points, so it's definitely not an armored battle. Usually, so, but this map is very open. Let's see. Although, I mean, we have plenty of um, concealment here. These height 1 areas are block line of sight as effectively as that does. The difference is, of course, is when you're when you're in it, you can actually see out if you're close enough to the edge. So it's not that bad. This looks open, but you can actually move through it. Now that may not be the best idea because if we're going to start behind this, then we'll be moving over it. So that would probably be more something to move on to. Um, Maybe. This side looks more promising for an infantry advancing, but what do we have? We have some. Okay, the victory axes are spread evenly or so, but that doesn't matter. Can't really get, can't really go for all of them. So I think I'd probably be starting the infantry on this side. I don't know what the support side will have. It might be. Well, it's looking like a couple of tanks may be a good idea, but I don't really like that idea. To be honest, I 1,000 points. For the Germans. The tanks are kind of expensive. We have we have 1,000 points, but we have points limit, a 10% point limit for artillery, and a 10% point limit for um, armor. So 100 points for armor. 100 points for armor, 1,000 points for the Germans buys you one tank platoon. That's 2 tanks. Yeah, not much. You cannot get more than that, no matter how hard you try. You can get light tanks, but they don't really count as, they're not really for frontline combat. They're more for a supporting role. They basically much more heavily armored machine gun carriers. You may be better off with half tracks. I mean, although they get taken out fairly easily. So the problem here is once you get out of the trees, where are you going to go? Yeah. Anyway, I think the infantry can move up on either side. This side I think is trickier for where um, once we get out of the trees, I don't see where we can. There's just not enough. And some height 1 here, but then they're out in the open. It does not look pleasant for infantry. This side, picture X is there. That's starting probably 66. We're probably starting. Well, start line I think will be probably around here. So the problem in this case is that we will be moving across that. That looks unpleasant as well. Alternatives. I think starting on this side is probably better. But maybe not moving out to that one. Where's the center one? There. Yeah, they're just so far over. I always end up with these situations. It's like these random maps are just they're brutal. I mean, they tend to punish one or the other side. They're really well balanced. Looks like I just do the short straw again. I'll be out in the open again. That's not good. Yeah, because I can't see how the infantry wouldn't be able to move up. I mean, they could stop behind here, which is great, but then they'd be moving across here. So right off the bat, I'm feeling that I'm gonna struggle. That's not a good feeling. That's not a good start at all. Hmm. I think I don't know what I'm gonna do. Is really what it comes down to. Until I actually see exactly where the deployment is, you're gonna have to make do. There's really no way I can like on a map like this. If you had maybe 2,000 points, 2,500 points, you're probably looking at a platoon of tanks just to make make it work. Not at 1,000 points, and I'm not very good with tanks. I don't have the experience. I'd probably just be putting points into things. I was hoping to avoid taking tanks in this battle, but it's looking like that's not may not be possible. Anyway, I can't tell. 'Cause I don't know how far back the deployment line will be. It varies. I mean, it's not. It doesn't start exactly in the center of the map. It's dependent on where um, the victory X's are. The random maps are actually quite cool. They're not. They actually. I've yet to see a map that was really badly generated. I mean, you get some awkwardness in it, but the game actually, for all the oddities in the game, it actually does a very good job of generating random maps. Um, it's just one side, you know. Just depending on which side of the map you're starting on, you may not agree with that at that particular moment. Like I'm feeling like I probably don't agree with that right now, but we'll see when we actually get in there. So it's very open. I mean, that's basically the problem. Um, might need maybe some transport would be helpful to move the infantry a little faster. I don't know. Yes, this is where my inexperience starts to really right off the bat. It's like, yeah, you don't know what you're doing. Why are we doing this? What are we doing? Oh no. Okay, so I'm gonna go with my usual purchase as the basic force. I found it works fairly well for me in a lot of different circumstances. It may not work that well here, simply because the nature of the map. But again, 1,000 points is not a lot of points. So I mean, looking at a rifle company, German rifle company, that's 368 points. So that's a good chunk of that's gone already, and we don't even have any recon um, or artillery or anything. So, but it's actually quite a nicely balanced purchase. You get the mortars. This is the reason I like. I actually did a little bit of a test to figure out whether it's worthwhile getting these mortars in there, and yes, they are. It is. They're most definitely worth. It's definitely worth the points now because these don't count. These light mortars do not count against the artillery limit. So spending 368 points gets you 3 mortars that, but you still have the other 100 points left for your to use on artillery. So you're basically getting 3 light mortars for free. I'd say not really for free because I mean obviously it's costing you points, but your artillery limit is not impacted at all. So it is really worth it because I actually tried to figure out whether you better off buying 3 platoons. Actually, you need like 4 platoons because you're gonna need to have the Panzerjägers as well. So and LMGs. So I mean that so you still need to include that. But then when it comes down to getting the light mortars, I couldn't get as much artillery as I can now. So I actually think this works quite well for me now. I'm not very good at using it, um, but I think sticking with the same basic force is helping. Does help me um, know what or try different things with them rather than just changing it around every single time and then it doesn't work and you don't know why, right? So I'm gonna stick with this can only get one because we only have 442 points left. And yeah, so we'll move on to scouts. Well, I'm gonna go with 2 4-man scouts. This works fairly well. These scouts are quite good because they have tank mines. You, they, my opponent knows that now, so he tends to take them out very quickly. Yeah, when he sees scouts, when he sees German scouts now, he kills them right away, as fast as possible. So, but then we're gonna go with 2-man. So that's 4-man scouts, 4-man scouts, 2-man scouts, and I'm also gonna throw in a sniper for the scouting. So that's my recon. So now we got 341 points left. Okay, well let's do the artillery. Nope, no. We'll do heavy MG. Yeah. Okay, that's the basic infantry side of it. 309 points. We'll do the artillery. What I'm doing is 2 mortar sections and a forward observer. I'm not going to buy the vehicles as I have done in previous battles. It's not a lot of points. What I was usually doing is buying a truck section. Actually, yeah, truck section. I said tank platoon earlier. I meant a tank section because there's only 2 tanks in them. Anyway, the truck section is quite cheap. It's not like only 18 points. Like you can even get it cheaper for 14 points. But I've never actually needed to use the trucks at all so far because at visibility 25 we are not that far apart. The start lines on the map depend on the visibility. So from the center of the map, or from whatever the game decides is the center of the battlefield, really, not the center of the map. I mean, it goes the visibility distance either side of that. Now, I mean, the start line is not straight. The start line is not straight. It kind of zigzags across the map, but you can guarantee that the start lines will be 25 or 26 x's apart. So, well, they'll be the visibility distance apart. So you can actually deploy quite far forward. Now, in this case, we may not. Just looking at the map again, I don't know. It may not be feasible on this one. Well, there's an area here where the artillery could deploy behind. They could also deploy in the back of the trees, maybe. Yeah, so I think the artillery can probably deploy far enough forward. The reason I was taking the vehicles in the beginning, well, for the first 4 play by email points battles is that I wasn't sure how far back I could deploy those, but it's become fairly apparent that I can deploy the artillery quite far enough forward so they don't ever. They're always within range of the center of the map. That's really all that matters. You don't really need to be able to fire further back than that. So, I mean, as long as they can hit possibly to the opposing start line in their initial deployment, that's fine. I haven't seen a circumstance where I couldn't do that yet, so I'm gonna gamble that I don't need the trucks. Okay, so that is it. No, I need the forward observer. I haven't taken that. Okay. All right. So that's the basic force. Now that's what I've decided is I will always take in every battle. Because that leaves, then I have to figure out, for every battle I have to figure out what my remaining points are going to go, depending on the map and so on. And on this map, it's really looking tempting to take some tanks, but I'm going to resist that. Actually, I'm going to resist taking tanks first. At the very least, I'm going to resist taking them at the beginning. They never work out for me. So far, I've been lucky, and when I've taken armor, I haven't had all of them get destroyed. In the previous battle, I had two 38Ts. They both managed to get out of the battle, but they were just big expensive placeholders. Funnily enough, my opponent said the same thing because because both of us had two tanks. It actually became a stalemate for the tanks, and nobody was willing to use them. So, I mean, if your opponent finds out you don't have tanks, then of course he'll use his tanks freely. And unfortunately, depending on what he has, um, it may be tricky to take them out because I don't have any, like the infantry anti-tank weapons in 1940 are not exactly strong. Um, they were adequate for most of the tanks, but actually, even in 1940, I mean, we had the previous battle was Norway, or Germany versus Norway. Norway doesn't have any armor, so we allowed Norway to take British armor because they were in Britain. Britain was in Norway at the time as well. So and also all French armor was one or the other. Um, and my opponent took two cruiser Mark IIs, I think. The Panzerjägers would not be able to take those out, except maybe at like as a rear shot at like 1x range, which would be extremely difficult. So yeah, infantry anti-tank weapons in the early war, they started running out fairly quickly. Um, it would take a long time before they actually caught up again. I mean, I think it would take until 1943 or something like that for the bazooka to come along, which kind of changed the whole thing again. So yeah, now comes the hard part. I think I've done the easy part. Um, don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do next. Well, well, hmm. Need to think a little more detail about how I'm going to moving up here. If I start on this side, then the infantry would be moving across here. They'd be out in the open. For the period that they're moving across here, there's some height 1 areas where they might get a little further, but it's not likely they're going to get all the way to the victory axis from there. Yeah, I'm probably going to be really far back from them, I think. So I'm maybe some more mobility. Um, Starting on this side, we would get. Let's see. Here. Um, where is it? It's kind of annoying. It doesn't show you where the. Come on. I click there. There. Okay, so that's the distance we would have to move. We have to advance in the open. Um, if he has tanks, we're done. So we have to find a way to take the tanks out. We have to assume that he has because he's going to have a lot of tanks. The other thing is almost every other nation in the early part of the war had really cheap tanks. Now they were far inferior to the German tanks, but numbers count. I mean, if you can have if I can buy 100 points, that will get me one tank section. And you can get fairly decent tanks for the time. I mean, just to have a quick look here. The Panzer section. Here we go. So I mean, we could get a Mark III for exactly 100 points. It's not terrible. I mean, it's actually better than most of the Allied tanks at this all in 1940. But that's 100 points. So my opponent's playing the Belgians. He's probably able to get probably FT 18s or FT 17s for. You can probably get 4 of them, I think, maybe 5 even for 100 points. So we're outnumbered now. I mean, they're not. They have thinner armor. They have weaker guns. Actually, no, they probably don't. They probably don't even have weak guns. They probably all have 37. Well, 37 millimeter was a very common caliber for that in the early war. So yeah, I mean, 2 tanks versus 4 tanks. The 4 tanks will win unless you're really good, which I'm not. So um, yeah, it's just not looking like a. That's why I try to keep the battle as from my side as an infantry battle. I look at it as an infantry battle, even though um, it's not. I mean, we're allowing armor. The one problem with German armored cars, for example, is they can't carry anybody. It's like because they designed them with all this angled armor on it and stuff. So um, yeah, I mean, there's just no place for troops to sit on them. So um, it's kind of annoying. If you want tanks that can carry stuff, you pretty much have to go to a Mach 1, but then they're so small and they can only carry 4 men. They can't carry an entire infantry section at all. It's kind of tricky. It's the Germans are the Germans have all the best stuff in the game. Well, because they had the best stuff in real life. Um, but it cost so many points. That's the thing. It's like, but I mean, they adapted. That's the thing. That throughout the war, they had better equipment, they had better training, but they were always outnumbered, and that they had to adapt to that continuously. Um, so in fact, I that's distracted myself from the problem. So back to the map. I think the side actually is not too bad. The side's actually I'm a little more hesitant to advance up on this side because simply because you're out in the open. You may let's see. There's no height. There's nothing to hide behind, like in the center part. Now, is there enough room to move up an entire company here, though? That's the second question. I don't want to split the company up. So if I'm going to move something up on this side, maybe infantry would be better. But also I need a way to take out enemy tanks at range, preferably cheap. I don't know what that'll be. Don't know what that'll be. Let's look at anti-tank weapons. Maybe that'll give me an idea. Anti-tank gun. Yeah, so we can get 37 millimeter anti-tank gun, 38 points. We can get a pair of them. Then we need transport because they can only move 1 hex at a time. This may actually be a way to go. It's fairly cheap. They don't count against artillery. Anti-tank guns do not. They don't count against artillery. However, they will need support. So this is the thing. And where would I deploy them? That's the other thing. So let's look at the map again. Where would the anti-tank guns? At this moment, I'm assuming the rifle company will be able to move up to this side. My opponent will probably be able to take the victory X's fairly quickly. He's very experienced. He has no trouble doing that. I really struggle to do that actually. Whenever I think I'm moving fast enough, it turns out, yeah, no, you were dragging your ass. You were not moving that fast. And I don't think either of us will be able to move fast in the first few turns here as usual, as we usually do. Um, I'm better off than he is in this map. I have more cover to advance through here before we're exposed. So I think I can expect he'll have a lot of tanks to try to dominate this area. Um, and it's gonna be awkward. Um, hmm. Okay, I was looking at anti-tank weapons. Where would they possibly be deployed? They'd have to be moved up. They can't be. That's the problem. They can't be deployed someplace convenient. And if they're going to be moved up, they're going to be exposed while they're doing that. Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. One of the problems with play by email is that you can't suspend your decision making. You can't say, well, let's just stop for the moment and come back to this later. You got to do the entire purchase and deployment all in one go. There's no, you cannot. Well, I mean, I can stop. Um, I can just take a break, but that's the only option you have, um, because you can't actually exit the game. If you exit the game, you're gonna have to start the whole process over again. So um, I don't know how I can avoid taking tanks, but I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. I mean, I don't know. Um, Given that he will have access to cheap tanks, I don't see how I can avoid having tanks. That doesn't really sit well. So I don't know how I can get. I don't know how I can get. We have self-propelled anti-tank guns, but they 276 points. No, I'm better off buying tanks for that price. Oh, it's all platoon though, so there is no. We don't have. You can only get a platoon of them. Really? Um, well, gee, that's kind of annoying. Um, a section of those might have been worth it, but I mean, given the cost of each one is 123 points, um, yeah, it's not happening. So this is where I struggle. I have no idea what would be a good choice here. I mean, so you end up making really bad choices is really what it comes down to, because I can't. My brain starts to melt, and I just want to get it over with. Get the purchase over with. So really, I think back to the map. Let's look at this. What other options do I have? So I'm only going to, my infantry will move up on this side. I think I can squeeze two platoons in here. They may not be in the best formation though, because the cover is fairly narrow, and I don't want to move another. I don't want to move. I we could actually move one platoon up through this side. There's height one. Line of sight. Line of sight is not. I, is not continuous here. Just look at where the. Um, height 1 there. Infantry could advance here. They could potentially advance. Some infantry could potentially advance through the middle, and I think that's probably what's going to happen. Probably possibly to get into that position. So the company's moving up on the north side of the map. That'd be 2 platoons in the advance, and the 3rd platoon will be behind the company commander to be used where necessary. Now, I feel like one of the mistakes I've been making is I've been splitting the company up, meaning that if the company commander is now no longer close to all of the platoon, so I lose that ability to rally everybody. Like, because the company commander is the next step up from the platoon leaders that could rally anybody in that company, right? And if I deploy one of the platoons over here and it gets into trouble and runs out of rally points, then the company commander is never going to get across the battlefield to help them out. So if I am thinking another one infantry platoon moving up this side to take up a position here. Once they get here, they won't be able to move very fast. So where is the 3x here? So actually, all we were doing on this side is defending. So they would be moving forward to take up a defensive position, but that means they do need to move around here in the open. Height 20, height 10. It's not impossible. They just can't do very fast. So, but I think that's what I'm gonna try to do. So there's one infantry platoon moving up that side. The whole company's moving up on the north side. I need to defend the south side of the map because usually what happens, my opponent has now twice in a row found a way to get past me and meddle with my stuff at the back. Yeah, that's how much I suck. Yeah. So I've learned the lesson, and I need to have some defenders here. So we're probably gonna have another. We need at least another platoon. They'll move up here, or they might not even move up there. They might just take up. They don't even have, if they can't get across here without being spotted, then so be it. But at least there's something back here. Okay, so what else then? Now, looking at anti-tank guns, where would they move up? Where would they go? How would they be used? That's tricky. Actually, I'm thinking anti-tank guns probably would not be kept in the front, unless I put I put them back here just to keep because I mean they better off. The anti-tank guns are better suited to being deployed in a fixed position as a defense. They're not really an attacking unit. So okay, so we have an anti-tank guns here. Still gonna need transport for them though. That's costly because they would probably need to be half tracks to have a remote chance of actually moving them up. The thing is, I can't really tell how they might do that. That's the issue. There's actually, I mean, line of sight is actually not that open. Height 20, now this height 20 would not be able to see over here immediately, but it would see pretty far back here though. So, yeah, maybe tricky. No, he has enough high ground to start with that it would be difficult. Damn. Hmm. Yeah, it's gonna actually be difficult to hide my units. That's the problem. um, yeah. So, because we're probably gonna have to start one infantry platoon there and probably one back here, and they'd have to move out this way. They will not be able to move fast. Might be better off moving across here. I don't know that. If you can get behind here, but then I think you still can still be seen from the high 20. It's gonna be tough. It's not a map. Not a map for infantry. But I don't. What can I do? I mean, um, it's it because we've designated such a low limit on armor. Um, it's it's designated as an infantry battle. So both of us are going to have a lot of infantry. The advantage he has is he has access to cheap tanks. But so I need to figure out a way to take them out. Um, and that's not that easy for me. So we go back to tanks just to explore that a little bit. Um, so I mean, the thing of it is, so if I'm looking at at let's say Mark threes will splurge Mark threes. That's 100 points. So that leaves me with only 104 points. Another platoon is rifle platoon is 85 points. So that's 3 points. Um, hmm, 15 points left. Not a lot. So I mean that is it. That's the whole force. Is an extra rifle. This is why I'm hesitant to take tanks now. I mean they could take cheaper tanks, um, obviously. Um, 38 T's, 84 points. So we'd probably be going down that way. If you were going towards main battle tank, light tank. Um, Surprisingly, the Mach 2 is not very effective. Now these are not battle tanks. These are recon tanks. They're not intended for frontline tank versus tank battle at all. So as a deterrent to enemy armor, useless. Not recommended at all. Um, they may they may be able to do something, but they're very likely to get taken out before they get to do that. They have very light weapons. The Mark One is basically a machine gun carrier. Um, it's got two MG34s on it. Um, this one has a slightly bigger gun. It's a 20 millimeter rapid fire, um, but it its armor piercing capabilities are quite bad. In fact, you don't even get any armor piercing armor. I think it's APCR type armor. Um, it's one like this. It's not explosive anti tank weaponry. It's a solid shot type. So it's a short range. Like that type of ammo is very short range, and we're looking about a tank that doesn't have very good armor. So how's it gonna get close, right? Um, yeah. So looking at Stugs, they usually get. In fact, they usually get a armor piercing, but not a lot because they're infantry support. And you're still looking at 96 points. So yeah. Okay, so um, anti-tank gun section, 38 points. That's gonna need. Actually, I'm probably gonna stop putting these in because that way I don't have to keep track of what I'm thinking. So we'll go rifle platoon. That's probably gonna need some support. Because they're not gonna be very effective on their own, so they're probably gonna need a heavy MG section, maybe. So what are we down to? 87 points. See, nothing left. If we go with artillery, if we go with the tank gun, that is 38 points. Now, if we look at half tracks for them, so they will need, damn it, I should check to see what their carry requirement is. 104. Okay, so 104. Well, half track platoon, half track section. One can carry 226. So, okay, so one of these can tow. We need one per gun, which is fine because you get the section has two of them in there. So we would need transport for them, that's for sure. Now they have machine guns, so that actually helps solve some of that, and that's it. That's all we get. It's like, yeah. Now, I mean, I could get rid of the machine gun. Could get rid of those. I don't think it'll make that much difference, though. So infantry. Go with the LMG. Well, considering they're taking up a defensive position, the heavy machine gun actually makes more sense, I think. LMG is considerably cheaper, so we'd take one of those. And okay, so then back here, tank gun, put that back in. We need a half-track section. So now we have 60. Okay, so getting rid of the heavy machine gun. Did I screw that up? Why is that so? No, because I haven't bought that yet. So now we have 21 points left. We managed to recover 37. Managed to recover 14 points. Now, what can you do with 14 points? Not much. In the because we've already stuck in the miscellaneous section, and all the interesting things are just a bit pricey. So, like, we're looking at motorcycle platoons. And now 54 points. Nope, not happening. Yeah. Yeah, and this is the thing. I mean, 100 points. I don't know. I just don't know. I'm almost tempted to make the next battle have no armor allowed in it, just to make it a little easy for me. I mean, to be honest, it's fair. It would. I feel it would be fair because well, I mean, I do need to learn, but it just seems like it's really not. I'm not really getting anywhere. So these, if I go with a heavy MG instead, the heavy MG makes more sense. And the thing of it is, there's no what's name really needs like the anti-tank guns actually need need heavy MG. So really, it ends up being these guys are going to be close together because there's no point. So those anti-tank guns would probably be back here. I mean, if that platoon and the heavy MG is going to move up here, this would be the place to deploy the anti-tank guns on this side. So if a tank moves through here, then we get a chance to take it out. I can pretty much guarantee we'll try to do that. What's the range on that? I can't remember. Problem is you can't really see a lot of the information here. I have to go digging in the. Nope. I have to go in encyclopedia. This is 37 millimeter anti-tank gun. And this is not well organized. In fact, it comes up with Belgium, even though I'm playing Germany. Uh, yeah, the game has so many quirks. The fact that people are still playing it is probably the main indication that it is a good game despite all those oddities. Where is the well, we missed it. Tank 76 millimeter, 37 here. Okay, penetration at 12. So short range. Well, it's not. It's what you would expect for a anti-tank for a 37 millimeter gun in 1940. Um, so I mean the range is 40. Uh, the range is 40, um, and it has, but the effective range is only 12. Um, I don't even know if we can get that close. So that's the normal year. Developed by Rheinmetall Bossig from 1933, was tested in Spain and eventually exported in large numbers by 1941. 15,000 units had been produced in Germany alone. It was licensed, built in Russia, Italy, Holland, and Japan. And guess what? That's why almost why 37 millimeter anti-tank guns and 37 millimeter tank-mounted weapons, main guns on tanks were very, 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 very common in the early part of the war. Um, yeah, nevertheless, it was the best design available. The American 37 millimeter M3 was a close copy, but by 1940 it was already obsolete. Yeah, except that's all I got. So that is actually the only weapon that's available to the Germans. I mean, in that's affordable, I should say. Um, okay, let's get out of there. So it would have to be deployed quite close. Um, so let's say we were in these woods here. They could hit across that side. They would be okay in here, actually. Um, I don't know. This is the difficulty with play by email with points battles. Um, and this is the reason I keep doing this is because this is the part I'm struggling to learn. Like the tactics, I can accept that I can need to learn that over time, but if you're buying the wrong units, then well, you're screwed basically. um, there's nothing left now. I mean, the other options here. Actually cutting out mortars maybe. Let's explore that possibility. Let's see where we get. So let's go back to artillery. Buy another full reserver. So now we're cutting down the amount of artillery I normally take. So this is only the mortar is only 42 points. So I'm taking half the amount of artillery. But then on the other hand, I have this. So this is one of the reasons I looked at how much the cost was. Um, the light mortar. The problem with the light mortar is that you get a platoon HQ, which really throws the cost off. If you could just get, a light mortar section like you can with the medium mortars, then you get I mean, it would reduce the cost a lot, but this platoon HQ is worth a lot of points. I mean, it's 13 points of that 45. Um, so, okay, but even if you took that off, I mean, that's still like, well, it would be less than that, but even then, it would be 30, 32 points, right? So, that, which is reasonable. I mean, you can still get. I mean, it's possible to do it, but you can only get one. So now I'm reducing myself to this to what I would normally take if I didn't take the company. So you always go around in circles on that argument. Like, is it worthwhile taking all of that? It is if you're going to take more than one mortar section. Um, so yeah. Let's see. Infantry. Where observer team infantry. So we're gonna take a rifle platoon. We're gonna get. Um, nope, I did not buy that. Stupid buy. Hit the buy button. We want to get a heavy MG. I think that's a better choice simply because of the range. They have the heavy MG has fire control as a rangefinder. They have a range of given them a range of 25, which is about 2/3 longer than the light LMG. So, which doesn't have all those toys on it, um, which is actually quite a benefit. I mean, being able to fire at targets that are very far away effectively. I mean, you can use it up to 14 hexes. It's quite effective at that range. Um, it's not doesn't have killing power at that range though. The chances of actually getting a killing hit are very low, unless they're moving fast. In which case, yeah, then it's quite easy. But of course, it requires them to be moving fast. So um, we'll go with that. Now that's 129 points. Um, so I was looking at artillery, anti-tank gun section. Looking at half-track section. So we now we got 49 points left, which is not a little better, but still not gonna get you very far. I think we may be better off with. I think it may be better off with the extra mortars. Um, the thing of it is now relying on these guys to relying on the half-track machine guns to actually protect the anti-tank guns, which is kind of not terribly useful. So let's look at the infantry because that's probably where I would get more. So we could actually go for another heavy MG section, and I'm actually kind of liking that. What about more half tracks? What about more half tracks? We can actually get a second half track section. Unfortunately, they cannot. They can carry 26 men. They can carry 26. No, they can carry 12 men. The 112. The 112 says they can carry a tank. Carry a tank. They can tow stuff. They can tow light to medium artillery. And the 12 is that they can carry 12 men. There's the Zofia is 8 men probably, assuming you get all of them. So we're playing with a reduced squad, so the squad loses some men right off the bat. That was pretty normal on the battlefield. I mean the that's simulating have people be going on leave and things like that. People are sick. Um, like squads are really full strength all the time. Um, so like that's eight. That that's 6 men at best. Maybe eight. No, eight at best. I think you probably only gets six usually, but eight at most. So you're gonna need uh, a whole track. I mean, a whole half track. So you would actually need 5 half tracks to carry the entire platoon. So, but does does provide options for moving other things around. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Everything points back to taking tanks, and that's kind of, the thing is, if at this level, if I have enough points to take tanks, that leaves me with 29 points, which is not a lot. You don't have anything left you can take with that. Um, hmm. I don't know. This is hard. This is the hardest part for me. It's just the the last few the last few points. I mean, everything from here, I'm actually pretty happy with. I really feel that Valm is a good starting point for me in terms of what if I was playing well, I can probably use the combination. Um, it's a good combination to learn from. Put it that way. It's very basic. Um, Tanks, not so much. In the best case is that the opponent can't take the tanks out, and they be all everybody's tanks become placeholders, right? They're just expensive, very expensive units that you can't do anything with. Um, in the worst cases, one side takes the other side's tanks out. Now, I mean, in that worst case scenario, there is much more likely my tanks will be taken out, considering I'm inexperienced. I'm also would probably be outnumbered, probably not outgunned, um, but probably outnumbered, and that's the difference. Um, I don't know. It's so difficult when you know that the enemy is going to have tanks, and you really can't afford to throw too many points into it. Um, Because at this point, I mean, right now at this point level, I could probably get 2 more tanks, but what can I do with them? That is the question. Where would they go? What would they do? They'd basically be mobile. They'd be mobile anti-tank guns. Is really all that they could do. Um, they would. I would be extremely hesitant to move them out here unless I knew I could do that safely. Um, so that's basically taking anti-tank guns. Um, at this point, I could take pretty good ones. I mean, I'd be taking. They'd have 37 millimeter gun, which is the same as the anti-tank gun, and they include the transport. So, I mean, if you look at, let's look what that looks like. So the tank, but now the tanks need support. Um, Tanks are not good on their own, so they're gonna need scouts to go with them because otherwise they're not not a good um, they're not likely to be able to fend for themselves. So now we're looking at scouts. So we only have 29 points. So that puts us in the 2-man scout range. So I can only get one of them. Basically, they would ride on the tanks. Actually, I mean, I could get more than one platoon, but not a full one, not two full ones. So you could get 4 2-man. They would ride on the tanks. The tanks can carry. No, the tanks can carry 6 men, I think it was. No, they can carry 8 men. So 2 each, like 2 groups on each one. The reason I would do that is because there's likely that you're going to need some scouts to. The scouts will ride on the tanks, but you also need some scouts that are dismounted so that they can actually observe. So I mean that's one possibility. I could go cheaper. Cheaper tanks. They might actually be a better choice if I would go down that road. 38T seemed to be pretty adequate to last in the previous battle, and that was against cruisers, where I have pretty damn good armor. They had the cruiser tank. Cruiser tank has frontal armor of 30 millimeters, actually, and I think the side armor is 30 as well. And the turret front armor is 30. Actually, I think the turret front armor of front side and side was 30 millimeter. That 37 millimeter gun could not penetrate even at like 4 hex range. There was one turn where we just turned. It was a vicious exchange between. He kept firing at my tank, and he kept opportunity firing back. And the thing is, I got a shot on his tank first, and that suppressed him quite a lot. So because he didn't actually expect my tank to be in right in that position. I think he thought they were still behind the lines. He didn't expect them to be that close because I moved them up quietly in the second turn or something. Managed to get them into an area that he didn't expect it. But after that, I couldn't. No, after that, nothing really happened because nobody was willing to move their tanks out after that. But I mean, it was a kind of to watch, because during while you're watching the replay, I mean, you don't have control over your units. I mean, it's just opportunity fire. But I was lucky because I got the hit. Like I got an opportunity fire hit in first, which suppressed him, but it didn't penetrate. He managed to rally and then fired at me, and then I opportunity fired back. And I guess he rallied again and took another shot, but neither one could get a good hit. I was getting better hits on him because he was missing me all the time because he was suppressed. But I mean, so the 38T is actually not a terrible tank against similar tanks from the early war. The Mark III is probably overkill. So if we go with that, if we go with the 38T, that leaves us with now 45 points. So we may actually be able to get better scouts for them. This is the thing. You buy tanks, but now you have to consider, well, who's going to operate as their eyes, right? It's not just I'll get 2 tanks, because the tanks are blind. Tanks are the worst observers in the game, as they were in real life. Especially if they're buttoned up. There has to be infantry around them. We can now go 4, which is not bad, and that leaves 15 points. So we can actually maybe get half of another 4-man. Actually, there was a... why did they do that? No, because that's a 2. Why did they do that? It gave me a. Wait, yeah, here it goes. It's back again. Gave me a weird combo. Um, the platoon leader is a 2-man scout, and the actual the the other 2 scouts are 4-man scouts. But that's 27 points. Enough with a 2-man, and yeah, so I don't like that one. Let's just go back and get another 4-man because it's half. So we still only get 1, I think. Yeah, so it's the same thing. Or dump that. We get a 2-man, which will get us 2, I think. Yeah. Um, um, mm, I don't know. I really don't know. I didn't want to take tanks, but looking at the map, maybe I have to. Maybe I have to. I I have to look at how I would use them, though. I mean, I have to think of all the sort of possibilities of how they could be used. Yeah, here. I mean, I would not envision myself moving those tanks anywhere out here. They would be mainly used to as a defense, which is not a good way to use a tank. Um, they basically mobile anti-tank guns, so instead of taking the anti-tank guns, I take that instead, and it just seems like a really, just seems like an expensive way to go. But really, it's not actually. When you look at it, when you look at the cost of the anti-tank gun, so 38 points for a section. You're gonna need the half-track section, which is 42 points. Half-tracks are really freaking expensive, given that their armor's so light. um, yeah. So, um, now I'm not comfortable with that combo. I mean, it could even go down to a 35T, but maybe not. Okay, so back here, Kansas section. Let's just look at armor. I mean, they are they aren't really that different, right? Actually, the 35T has better rear armor. That's surprising. Not much though. It's only 3 millimeters. Yeah, the 38T has 12 millimeter rear armor. Turret is the same. Hmm. Yeah, so this is the question. I have to make a relatively quick decision. Sure. Do I go with this? I mean, I can actually go with a Mark III. Uh, I've demonstrated I can I can squeeze it out of the points and still get enough scouts to keep them to give them some observers around them. You have to do that. I mean, that is if you take tanks and don't have any way for to have infantry around them. This infantry I've earmarked for doing something else. The tanks are more of a free range kind of thing. The thing of it is, the way I'm planning to use it, I think the Mark II is probably too expensive. I really just need to have a way to guard his tanks moving up through here. Um, I don't see using the tanks to take the victory axes early on or anything like that. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've been posting these things on YouTube, and like I've been asking every single one. So how does any advice would? Because I mean, it's obviously people seeing it after the fact, so um, any advice would have no effect on how the on that battle, right? So I mean, I think it's fair. It's actually more dangerous to ask here, because if there's anybody who could say that, give advice, then they it would not be fair, because I mean I really should be trying to figure it out myself when it's live, so to speak. Because my opponent, well, on the other, my opponent has a lot of experience, so he doesn't need advice. But I mean, when he was learning, I mean, he had to learn it at some point, so I mean, he had to do it on his own. So I don't know. I mean, that's what I would envision using the tanks as. I would not see them being used as an offensive weapon. They just kind of a cost-effective way of getting an anti-tank gun with the transport that goes with it. Oops, I just deleted them. Ah ha ha. Well, never mind. So that is the possibility. Now, the only reason I'm able to get that is because I'm now short on mortars, right? So so then comes back to that. Do I actually want more mortars? Personally, I prefer more mortars. Because if I'm not going to use the tanks for the way they should be used, I mean, a tank should be used to as an attacking weapon, then but I'm really worried. I'm really worried that there's not going to be a way to. I mean, I will need to move the tanks up. I can't see not doing that really as things progress, because they'll simply be needed, right? And they're a lot easier to move up than anti-tank guns, unless I mean I can move the anti-tank guns someplace easy. I don't know. I I have another idea. So let's assume I don't only take one mortar section. It leaves it a bit light on the artillery side. Actually, I think it leaves it very light. Uh, I'm used to having a lot more mortars than that, so it'll actually throw me off, I think. The problem with the anti-tank gun is the transport. Okay, the anti-tank guns are 38 points. The transport, which well, you could take trucks, but is there really any point? I mean, trucks would be cheap, but how would you be able to? They're extremely risky. Um, Half tracks. No, looking in the wrong place. The half tracks. So I mean, like a track is cheap. A track is really cheap. When you need a truck section is really cheap. But and you're gonna need it. But here's the thing: how are you gonna move that around the map, and get them into effective positions, etc., etc. Now another possibility. So many options. This is the thing. This is why I get stuck on this, because there's just so many options. So actually, I'm thinking about two anti-tank guns. One section is deployed in a static position. I'm just trying to find a way to talk myself out of buying tanks. That's really what I'm doing. I, so I have two anti-tank gun sections, but I can only afford one half-track section at this point. Okay, so right, recon half-track is, ooh, okay, it's an idea. But they can't tow anything. That's annoying. Why the hell would the? Okay, well I guess I mean, they're recon. They're dedicated to that purpose. Um, yeah. So we have I've because right, looking at it the other direction. On this side of the map, um, it would be nice to be able to move the anti-tank guns further up here somehow. Um, don't know. I really don't know if that's going to be feasible. They, get them into this position. Um, but back here has deployed anti-tank guns just to cover this area if the tanks move up through here. I don't know. I don't know. So many choices. The thing of it is, I mean, you have to learn this. It's not, well, don't bother, just play scenarios. The problem with scenarios I found is that, like the design scenarios, the balance on them is just in this. They're designed for solitaire play. They're designed for one side to be played by the computer player, and because the computer player in Steel Panthers world was really bad, it's it's tend to be over balanced. It's balanced. It's biased, I would actually say, towards the side that's going to be played by the computer player. So it has more units. It has a lot more stuff. It's not very. It's not actually not very easy to learn. Um, it is very, very heavily biased to one side. So if you pick the wrong side, and you have to be careful. That's one thing you have to be really careful of. If you pick the wrong side, you can actually find yourself in a very huge disadvantage, right? The advantage of the points battles is, yeah, my opponent can have, 4 tanks, maybe even 5 tanks, because he can get cheap stuff, right? He can get cheap tanks. Um, Actually, I suspect he's going to have a lot of armor, um, but it's still balanced because I mean I have that option of taking some armor as well. Now, of course, there's this yeah, I mean, the problem with the problems the Germans faced throughout the war was, yeah, they had good equipment, they had better training, etc., all good things like that, but they were always outnumbered. And the game actually does a good job of setting that up. I mean, now the only option I would have is to say, well, you're way more experienced than me. Well, how about a handicap? But I don't know how that would work. I don't know if it's ever been done, and I haven't asked them because I've been struggling along. Now, so the thing of it is, I got my infantry are probably going to face tanks here. That means they will not be able to move up. Now, if I take 2 tanks, they can only be in one part of the map. I would not operate the tanks separately, simply because that just halves the amount of firepower you have. And 2 tanks operating as a pair. That's one of the reasons that the game doesn't let you take one tank. It's not possible to buy tank because they never operated that way in real life. They always operated in some sort of minimum combination that was determined to be effective, right? So that's why the game only lets you buy tanks in sections or like in formations. And, you can cheat and get one of them by making sure that you have enough points to buy one, like half of the section, and you can get the one tank at the end. But it's not effective. Um, it's not really going to be very effective because if you're outnumbered like 4 to 1, no, that tank will not live long. At least if 4 to 2, like so, it's 2 to 1. You got a little bit of a chance, maybe, if you're better than me. Um, So the thing of it is, could I move the anti-tank guns up here sufficiently? You know, they'd have to be towed. They'd have to be towed, because they can only move 1x at a time, and I think they always get one movement. But I mean that would take forever. So they'd have to be towed to some point up here, and then they would be manhandled into position. But would I actually be able to get away with that? Don't know. But it would be an answer for the problem of how my infantry will deal with the tanks, right? Because right now they basically can't. Now, I mean, I'm thinking of deploying infantry, or not deploying, but advancing infantry into positions here. The tanks will make mincemeat of them, so they may not even get that far. They may need to pull back. It may actually be better to deploy behind this hill, like advance to here and take positions up. I don't know. It'll depend. It will depend on what happens. But so that's my possibility. I'm thinking that leaves me with 11 points, which is kind of off. I don't know. Decisions, always decisions. No, I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with it. To be honest, I'd rather take more mortars. I think they would be a much more effective. Because he's going to have more. He's going to have more infantry than armor. As much as you'll have a lot of armor, but he's going to have a lot more infantry. So I think that's probably still a better way to go. And for observer, so we're going to go back that route. Oops, only want one of them. Okay, so, but that leaves me with still questions. Back to the map. So if I go with the an anti-tank gun section and the transport to move it around, it would have to be deployed somewhere back here so that it could move up that side, if necessary. Be like out of sight, because otherwise there'd be no way to get that moved over. Now you're looking at the danger of it, now because it's such a long haul. There's a danger that it could be it break down, right? And there goes your chances of that. So, but that can happen with a tank as well. So it's not really, you know, it's not really a thing that tanks would be immune to that. Uh, the Germans have the most reliable weapons in the game. That apparently the Americans, or was the British have the second most reliable, or was the Americans? Because given the way the game works is even like between nations, like Shermans, would you expect them to have the same reliability, but it actually depends on which nation they're in. So I can't remember if it was the British or the U.S. forces have more than second most reliable. It might be the British. I can't remember. But the German stuff still breaks down. I mean, we play with all realism settings on, so that can happen. So I mean that they would have to be deployed back here, so they can move up this side if needed. or across year if needed. And that's, I mean, if I took tanks, that's what I'd do as well, right? It would be the same thing. It's really no different. Um, it's not cheaper. It's not cheaper to buy. I mean, it's false. It's really false economy. Now, these may actually be harder to use. So let's just look at the numbers again, because that's the main thing. Okay, so why am I off? Why am I off? Oh, that's right. That's why. Because I'm gonna take a infantry first. Platoon. The game's not really well designed in this area, because it would be nice if you could actually just rearrange these things without having to delete them every time. Because you're bound to forget something, right? So, MG. So, if we're gonna go with the anti-tank gun, and we can squeeze one. Half-track section out of that. That leaves us with 7 points. Something else just occurred to me. There are 18 points. Now, obviously, we can't get a whole one. So that's one possibility. That's one possibility. These would be deployed far enough back. And now I'm looking at, I don't know if these guys can carry, the anti-tank gun is 4 men. Oh, shit, it doesn't work that way. When the half track is towing something, it can't carry anything else, so it doesn't matter. So, I mean, that would be deployed back here. That would be deployed back here. Now, that gives me some transporting because I need to move the mortars around or whatever. But I mean, that would have to be deployed in this area to be able to get around and, into this area here. However, I suspect that we may be seen because he has high ground over here, and I can't be sure that he wouldn't have line of sight along here. In fact, it looks like he might have, and you'd be able to see that happening, right? So, yeah, it's actually gonna be tricky. They would actually have to deploy a lot further back, just to be. But I mean, it would take forever to get them into a position where they could help. So they probably would be better off being deployed on this side or on that side. I don't know. Because even with tanks, I mean, I would only have one tank section. So, if I deployed them here, but they needed over here, they'd have to move up somehow to go help out, right? So I don't know. This is the hard part. I really, really, really struggle with this part of the game. There's so much to learn here. Now, that leaves with, that's 87 points because I put the mortar back in, so we don't have enough points for tank anymore. So it has to be the anti-tank guns, or we give up on that. If I give up the mortars, then I have to use the tanks more aggressively. I don't. There's just no way to avoid it. This, you know, one of the problems with these degenerated maps though is they're very big. I mean, I'm playing with the same opponent. I mean, basically, there's nobody else who I don't think there's anybody else who would play with me. I mean, I just don't have the experience to be able to say, yeah, let's set up a game. But it's hard enough playing against one person. So I'm learning how he plays. So I kind of know what to expect most of the time. Um, but so it's just I'm playing the same opponent. So I discussed before this one whether to switch to like designed maps, and the problem is like you have to have more decisions to make. It's like you think you're making it simpler because we're gonna get you know because you'll get a designed map that you can look at beforehand and make some decisions about what you're gonna do. Drop your plans before you get into the stage. But then you have to decide what map you're going to use, and that requires agreement between the players, and that's just more discussion. And it was kind of pointless. So, because I still don't know what I would want in a map, right? Which map should we use? It's just well, you pick one basically. But he seemed reluctant to pick the map. So he wanted my input on it, and I just didn't know what to suggest. You know, you can't try to narrow it down, but still kind of you have to show me some maps, then I could make a decision. We'll use this one. That probably would probably be easier for me, I guess. But yeah, it's just more decisions you have to make. I said, let's just forget it. We go with a random map. But the problem with a random map is it's so big. I mean, a company disappears in here. The one company will not be able to defend much of this area. I mean, it it can. I think the company can probably hold on one side of the map, but you'll need something else on the other side. Um, I don't know. It's really looking like I need to cut the mortars back. Um, I would need to cut the mortars back and take tanks. Um, it doesn't really seem to be a lot of choice. Uh, yeah. Uh, I really like having the two mortar sections though. There's a lot of firepower in there. Um, yeah, the thing is, so like armor is out of the question unless I go with the 35T, which is 76. Um, I got 11 points. Now you need scouts to go with them, right? So, um, yeah, that's it. You don't have enough points for the scouts. uh, so you can get at most one scout, which I guess is actually not enough because you want to have infantry riding on them. So if they take a hit, the first hit goes towards the passenger. The passenger either dies or gets knocked off the tank, and then of course the second hit. There's nobody riding the tank anymore. So if you're outnumbered, then you die anyway. So um, I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, well, um, I have another idea. Um, there's a lot of options. I mean, it's not so infantry anti-tank. These guys might be better off with some infantry anti-tank because we have some in this side. Um, so if we went with that, does that solve any problems? So now they have anti-tank capability. It's not very good. Um, I mean, it's only short range. I think you have to. I mean, they might be effective depending on the tank. They might be effective like 4x's. Against an armored car, they might be effective at 4x's, but probably you want to be like 2x's at best. Um, so yeah. Uh, oh man. And this is the problem. Like I really want to get on with it, and I'm struggling. So um, hmm. Yeah, the thing is, once you show your tanks, he'll know where they, he'll be able to use that against me. I think because there's no way I would have a lot of tanks. So, um, uh, to be honest, this part is gonna take me forever to get comfortable with, um, because it's just the struggle is very very real. We go back to scout vehicles. It's really difficult to find things that are well. The part of the problem is actually understanding what's available, right? Um, and that's comes with experience. You just can't get, which is something you can't get by reading it in a book for this game. Um, oops. So I think I'm gonna go with. Hmm, oh, tough choices. Tough choices. Yeah, I think I okay. I give up. Um, Too many mortars is not working for me. So too many mortars is not working for me. So we're going to reduce the number of mortars, and we're actually going to buy a tank. But we do need the infantry first, though. Actually, I want to look at. This is the other thing. I mean, when he was saying what he 2 battles ago what he'd bought, and it's like yeah, like there's no way I could afford that that battle group with 1,000 points. The Germans have many advantages, but all of that comes with a price. Literally, I mean, you're basically paying more points for everything, right? It was something I wanted to look at. I mean, like elite, it's 133. Um, an engineer platoon is 85, so that's the same as what's name. Um, Pioneers are motorized, so they get a lot of transport. Um, Mountain platoon, yeah. So we're getting into elite stuff now. Yeah, actually, these elite ones are not. Well, yeah, but you don't get very many. Don't even want to look at the Fallschirmjäger. I will. 91 points. That's actually not bad. If I had the points. I mean, at this point, gotta stop saying that. Using points in the same, using the word points in the same sentence to mean two different things. Um, what was I saying? Yeah, so I have 246 points. You know, I'm gonna burn that on a tank, really on tanks. But I need the infantry first, so that's the main thing here. Rifle platoon. Gonna give him a heavy MG. Yeah, I think I'm stuck with some sort of a tank. Right. So then we're looking at armor. So at least I have some infantry to hold the south side somehow. Um, it's just one platoon, not going to be very effective. Um, but so we're actually looking at tanks. So it's they have HE24. The 30AT is a bit more balanced, and you get a bit more HE, assuming you get most of it. So either 30AT gives 45 points, and then some scouts to go with that. Where are they there? Actually, if I go with the 2-man scouts instead of the 4-man, we can actually get 2 whole scout platoons. Yeah, because they can carry, the tanks can carry 6 men, I think. That's perfect, actually. Yeah, might go with that. Still haven't decided. Got to decide in the next few seconds, that's for sure. Yeah, so they can carry 6 men. That's so each of those, each platoon can be carried on each, but in its entirety on each tank. This infantry platoon and the heavy MG are actually moving. Now they actually will be supported by one of these here. There's an extra 2-man scout here, so they'll probably be attached to there, just to give them some recon, which kind of reduces the recon available to these guys, but that's okay, I guess. Yeah, I'm going to be heavily outnumbered again. That's that is a given. Going to be seriously outnumbered again. I have to get used to it. I mean, that's playing the Germans. That's what it's all about: is being outnumbered and actually figuring out how to use what you got. What can you do, right? So, I mean, that leaves me with 3 points, which is pretty good, I think. Like one thing you can't see here, you can't see what these actually are. Like it just says as a Specgroepe, but you have to know that you bought 4-man here, and if you fucked it up, then that's it. You're stuck with it because you would have to redo the whole thing. You have to abandon it. Um, I think you can actually get out. I think if I press escape now, it actually would abandon it, but it may actually leave the game in a bad state, so I'd have to unpack them again, unzip the files again, and start from scratch. Yeah, it's a very old, clunky, difficult to master game. I have a lot of respect for the guys who've spent years and years and years getting used to this game. I mean, I've played the game a long time, but I never played play by mail, and I didn't really play continuously either. I played more old solitaire, and I didn't play continuously. I really wish I got into play by email a long time ago, but that's how it is. So basically, this is the south side of the map. Um, the infantry, ABMG, and tanks, they will be deployed on this side here. They can The tanks can probably get around this side, not very fast, but I mean there's enough concealment that they could actually maneuver around that side of the map, and that's it. I really feel that's not an ideal battle group though, but I need the anti-tank capability, and I need it to be mobile, which is tanks. Because he's probably gonna move tanks up through here. I can pretty much guarantee it. He'll be trying to get through my lines with something. I don't know what the Belgians have. I don't think they had cavalry, uh, but they probably had something good enough or similar that would do the same job. So I didn't really look that closely at what they could get. Um, I do that, just didn't have time this time. So yeah, it's gonna be tricky deploying an entire company up on this side. I'll have to make do. I don't want to split them up. They're not gonna get split up, so we'll have to see how that works out. Okay, so I think that is it. Yeah, that is it. We're done. Are we? Are we? Last chance. Am I done? Am I happy with it? I'm not happy with it. I fucked around with it enough now. So let's just get with it. Okay.